Hello and welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour, the weekly bridge to the future of the piano tech community. I'm David Andersen.
And I'm Eathan and Janney. And we're here to ask great questions, and then we'll shut up and listen to some of the authorities, experts, and most outstanding personalities in our little world of pianos.
So, put on your best set of headphones and let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Hello.
Good to see you all.
Hi, guys. So good to see you.
Lovely Saturday. So we'll get a minute for people to come in and hang out before we officially get started. It's good to see all your lovely faces. Good to see folks joining us on Facebook, YouTube. Yeah. Dave Skolnick.
Hey, man.
Ooh, Dave Skolnick's got he's got a twin brother that's joining us as well.
Wow, right angle. Hey,
he's here on two different views.
Bill Clayton. Linda Kay, Cyrus Schuster with a headband, dude.
Donna Bird is here.
Yeah, Donna Bird. Skolnick, you grizzly old dude, how are you?
See Annika Byerly, I think she's out here in Chicago.
Johan Krebs. Wow. Quite a room full.
Yeah.
Hey, Nancy.
Right. Cool. So I think a few people are still jumping in, but I think we could get started and get things running here. Okay, let me make sure you're there. Okay, cool. I'll give an intro for those who are joining for the first time. This is Piano Tech Radio Hour, and it's being brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online educational resource that offers you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And we're also having the second ever online convention for piano technicians coming up here in March. Put a link there in the chat. If you haven't signed up for that, make sure you take advantage of our second round of early bird prices. You missed out on the first round of early bird prices. You definitely missed out on saving as much as possible, but you can still save quite a bit if you jump in now before those prices end. And today we've had a pretty solid roster of guests for the past several weeks. Some of them are instructors from that upcoming convention, and we've got a few more scheduled, but we thought we'd take a little break here and just check in, just me and David. Plan for today.
Every once in a while we just like to stir it up with Eathan and I. I feel so comfortable with Mr. Janney that I love to just spend an hour talking about piano nerd stuff and have everybody else join.
Yeah. So I see it's 76 in South Carolina, Jim Kelly says. His winter hat finally arrived.
Wow.
Okay. I don't think it's that warm here in Chicago. We had tons of snow here.
I don't think it's that warm here in Los Angeles. I don't.
So we thought we might talk about the upcoming convention a little bit, go over the schedule, see what's cooking. As always, we're able to post a certain amount of information, but it's always hard to keep up with everything that's going on behind the scenes. So if people have questions, I may have extra information. If you're curious or confused or something like that, I can share. Or if you just have a question that needs answering, I can investigate and maybe send along an email or incorporate that. And then what else? I actually had a recent question come in from, I think it was last week's feedback form, which we could also dive into. A person who's kind of just curious, what is a master piano technician? Is there such a thing? And if so, how do you get to be one? And it's actually a very interesting question that I'm happy that we could discuss and discuss among all of ourselves.
It's a great question.
Yeah, as well as any questions or topics of interest that come up in the chat today. This could go anywhere. But
And
I think, yeah, go
I,
ahead.
I had also thought that we could kind of take a stock of where we all are in terms of the pandemic and
Yeah, yes.
whether we feel hopeful now and what we what we think about now and what we think about 6 months from now and how we're doing. Because I mean, some people are doing fine and some people are really scratching the blackboard with their fingernails. They're just they're seeing this as a horrible time. And so let's talk about it. See why it's
Yeah, for
horrible,
sure.
why it's whatever it is.
Yeah, I could say actually, I could say just from personal experience, we have our piano tuning business out there in New York City. A couple of piano technicians go out in the field to do tunings. I'll give a quick summary of how that's going. You know, I mean, first of all, we kind of got off the scene before it was mandatory. You know, put up a video on the site saying, okay, you know, we're shutting down our operations in the interest of safety. But then at a certain point, things started to clear up and people started to be interested in doing tuning. So we did get back out there in the field and do some work. And I'm not sure how much, it's really hard to tell how much of our business is due to the pandemic or due to the pandemic, you know, slowing down or things getting better or not. It's really hard to tell how the influences are. Usually, as with many of us, business picks up around the holidays, right? November, December. And we've even seen a pickup, sometimes even more so in January, February. And I don't know. What I noticed is we didn't get as much as we thought in terms of calls for business between November, December. But we are picking up. We had a good week, couple of weeks this last few weeks. And the technicians are getting tested, you know, just to be really safe and using all the precautions, masks and, you know, being very cautious, you know, going into people's homes. But everybody stayed safe, knock on wood, and everything's been going okay. But I can't say that it's been easy, and I can't say that there's been a lot of confidence around what, you know, whatever the next day is going to hold. So that's how things have been for us.
Okay, for me, for me, it's really a unique experience in my lifetime after having worked 5 or 6 days a week for a big fat part of my adult life on pianos. I have not gone into somebody's house and tuned their piano since last March 9th. Because before I was diagnosed with cancer in April, I have had rheumatoid arthritis for 20 years. And if I got, and kind of weak pulmonary system from a bad pneumonia I had 40 years ago. So my doctors said, look, if you go out and get COVID, there's a really good chance you'll die. So I have basically been operating the business and running the restorations and scheduling the tunings, which is my partner and one-time protege, now colleague and collaborator, Nick Morello. Schedule him, schedule all the moves and rentals and all that stuff. But I haven't been out in a long time. So the pandemic has made a radical change. Pandemic and the fact that I got and
you've had quite a year,
cancer
David.
in the past year.
Quite a year.
Yeah. Not the average year. But the restoration business is pounding. It's up. I'm showing pianos and selling pianos about the same as before, but no downturn after the first 2-3 months when everything was asleep. All the restorers that I talked to and the rebuilding shops all across the country that are up and going are up and going, and a lot of piano technicians that I talk to are up and going. Whether it's a little bit of a limited thing, but I know Nick gets tested all the time and demands COVID-free environments if he goes into tune or work on a piano, anywhere it is, a store or a church or a house or wherever. And he's busy. He's busy. We're busy. And I'm not beating the bushes for appointments, and we're busy. I'm not, usually I send text messages out. I haven't since this comeback from the pandemic. I'd love to hear from some other people. Yeah. If they can raise their hands, then you can unmute them. And
yeah. And I'll say this, a few people were in the waiting room till just a minute ago. So I'll just reiterate what we're doing today. It's just me and David, and we're covering whatever topics are relevant for the day. But among them, we were just talking about how is business going for everybody and how's life going with respect to the pandemic and the recovery from the pandemic. We just shared a little bit about our experience. We're opening it up for other techs to share about theirs. Also, later on today, we can talk about the upcoming convention, give an overview, answer any questions that are out there, and confusions, things like that. Also, just behind the scenes, I have more information on what's coming than we're able to post and share in emails and websites and things. So if you're kind of curious about what's to come, maybe I have an answer. And also, if we get to it, a question from a participant that came in on a feedback form, which might be interesting to discuss. What makes a master piano technician? Is there such a thing? And if so, how does one achieve that? So yes, nobody's chimed in from the chat. Anybody have anything they want to share about their experience related to the pandemic or life in general in the past year and a half? Carl would like to share. He's raised his hand. Let's get him on board here. Carl, go ahead and unmute yourself. Tell us what you got to say.
I'm unmuting. So first of all, I've gotten both of my shots, which is good. I'm cautious. I follow all of the obvious things, but I'm not particularly worried about this. I don't go in dangerous situations. I work in people's houses. I wear a mask. People keep their distance. I don't view it as dangerous in any way. I do a couple, 2 or 3 private calls a week. I'm in the recording studio 2 times a week. And that's basically all I do. Existing clients contact me and I respond. When new people call me, I don't even return their calls. I'm kind of, I'm working so much less than I'm used to working. But, I'm working enough to keep my hand in it and be happy. And I have no desire to run around like I used to.
Do you get enough work to keep you out of trouble? Sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, the recording, doing 2 or 3 recording sessions a week keeps me happy. And doing 3 privates a week lets me do things. I occasionally file some hammers and stuff like that. But I'm working so much less than I've worked my entire adult life, and who knows what the future holds.
Me too. You and me both, brother.
Yeah, and I do remember just chatting with you when things were fresh, and you're kind of, who knows, maybe this is it, right? For your business, maybe it's all done and this is just the inflection point. So it's interesting to see, it's gotten to a point where you actually still are working and still keeping up with things, but it's more that it's slowed down. It hasn't stopped.
My business was different than most other people's business because 2/3 of pianos that I worked on every week were stage or recording pianos. They were institutional pianos of some sort. And the places that I work, being the cruise ships, the concert hall, the big hotels, they're completely closed. There's zero work in those venues, and there may never be work in those venues. The concert hall will open again in the fall. But, I'm never going to, the nature of our business has changed, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
As we've been saying for these many years.
Anybody else have anything they want to share?
Yeah.
If there's anything specific, I got a little ping from the chat here. Let's see here. Oh yeah, no, there's a couple comments now. Let's see. Oh, interesting. David Skolnick just rose this point. I'll read the question, see if I have an answer. Can you supply curated sound video files from David Clavins? It would have helped to have more of that beforehand. Okay. Well, I can say this, and maybe it's useful. Maybe you want something more specific. He does have a YouTube channel. And so there are a lot of custom videos regarding the various models of pianos that he has. So I'll get a link to that, and I can definitely share that. And
yeah,
Puja,
some of those recordings have broadcast quality audio if you plug in a set of cans or listen through good speakers. They're good fidelity. That guy doesn't mess around. I mean, I saw this weirdly. It shows you how arrogant I am. I saw it as kind of a joke, as kind of like a sideshow act. But then I heard it, and I listened to some of it before he was on through headphones on YouTube, and it was like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. This guy actually has made something that's significantly different than a regular piano. It was fascinating.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up that YouTube channel right now, and I'll link to it. But just to follow up on your comment, David, I'm hyper aware of this aspect of what I would call just an aspect of humanity, an aspect of reality, and that is that there's this pattern. There's these things that emerge, and when you see them, they're kind of funny, and you don't know what to do about them. And sometimes you laugh, sometimes you make fun of it, sometimes you're scared of it, and sometimes those things don't go anywhere, and it was made sense to laugh at them or be scared at them or whatever. But I've definitely seen multiple sides of that equation. One, I've been on that, I've been on the side of the equation. I've been the thing that's new that people aren't quite sure about, and they didn't know whether to laugh or run or whatever. And it's just the test of time. And I think that David Clavins, I would agree. I would echo that too. I think the first one I kind of saw, I was like, oh, it's just some gimmicky thing, But really meeting him and talking to him, very interesting, gives me a whole new perspective on what he's doing.
Absolutely.
He's really serious about what he's doing. And those pianos do sound beautiful.
They do. And he's making a living doing custom, installations in churches and venues and weird, modern, forward-looking buildings all over, usually Europe. But, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I think there is something to be said, for finding your niche in any industry. And, as it was for him, the more custom it is, the more fragile it can be, especially in the beginning. But as you build that expertise and you build that specialty, and now you're the only one that does that, it can actually be a stronger foundation than if you're just another one of those, another one of those. I'm just your average, just like any other. So it's an interesting thing to consider as people are building a career, to kind of fit, what's my niche? And it also makes that competition thing, I feel, a whole lot easier. You don't have to feel threatened by other people. They're just doing different things. And you've got a special skill. So that's cool.
That's what the whole craft can be if you look at it right.
Yes. So I got David Clavin's YouTube channel. I'll put that link in the chat so people
All right.
can check that
There's
out.
others. There's been other comments and stuff, so check them out.
Yeah, let me grab it. Also, just quickly want to give a note to Pooja, who's helping out with the project. Remind me, Pooja, we'll put that link in an email coming up too, so people can check out David Clavin's stuff. And I'll quickly follow up before we go on to a comment. I talked to David Clavins yesterday, and he's sort of refining what his topic for his class is going to be. And he's going to talk a lot about this unicorda piano that he's designed, which is a newer design that he did in collaboration with a pianist. And so he's going to do a deep dive in that particular instrument. So that should be interesting. Okay, moving on.
Do you remember what that sounded like? Ethan, Scott, I'm sorry, just a short thing. Do you remember what that unicorda sounded like? It sounds like a beautiful, rich clavichord. It's like almost like a personal instrument.
Yes. I think also
fantastic.
When you get into that type of instrument, because you have the cleanness of the tone and probably the stretch is even a little bit different, you get more, it's not really a bell, but there's a bell-like quality to the tone of the instrument.
Yeah, it's definitely a different tone. It's definitely
like a dulcimer.
Yeah. Kind of. It's super attractive, man. I went back and then listened to I found a YouTube channel with really good audio with the unicorda, however he pronounces it. And man, it's an awesome sounding instrument, different.
All right. So also, I know Diego's on this call and he's been emailing me. So thank you for your patience, Diego. And I think the emails are about if you're a subscriber to the various levels of Piano Technicians Masterclasses library, how does that combine with doing the convention? And the truth is, everybody is on a sort of different has been around for a different amount of time. So we've kind of been customizing packages for people depending on how their involvement with the project. So if you do have had a craftsman, artisan, apprentice subscription, and you're sort of curious how that plays out with the convention, you get in touch with me and I'll try to get back with you and we'll figure out what the best way to get you involved with the convention is. And then also something, everything's been up in the air. We're kind of having to redesign everything that we're doing. The conventions have been really, they're a great direction for us to go. So we're happy to do that, but it's kind of hard to incorporate it exactly with the existing model. So one thing that we will be doing for apprentice, craftsman, artisan level subscribers is what we'll do is we'll take the convention content and we're going to release it slowly over time to those subscribers. Definitely that will be part of what your features are. So, and we're going to put together a calendar so you can see how that will be released. And basically, you won't have access to it immediately, but over a period of time, every month or two, we'll release a new lecture from the existing conventions, and that'll become a part of your library that you can access. So that's what we're developing right now as kind of a fair way to combine things. And if you need more information, just reach out. And if I don't get back to you right away, I will get back to you. Okay, let's see here. David Skolnick got a second shot last Wednesday.
Bunch of stuff in the chat room.
Yeah. David Skolnick again said, got a second shot last Wednesday, holding back until his wife was able to get hers. Another month after that, question marks. Brenda Ming asked where I am, and I think she might have asked that in follow-up to me talking about how the business is going. So the business, I'm actually in Chicago area right now, but I used to live in New York, and I run a group of piano technicians in New York. So I was talking about our business in New York City. That's what I was talking about. And I'm in a Chicago suburb. Brenda Ming said she's in San Jose, 50 miles south of San Francisco, one of the worst counties in California for COVID. She's been out of home service with a few exceptions since last March. She's been tested once last September and got her first shot a few weeks ago. Second shot is due next week, and she'll resume home service probably around March 15th. Okay, well, that's awesome. Great news. patience is paying off and people are finally getting to that point where they can feel more confident about getting back to work.
I got my second shot a week ago yesterday, and it really is a completely different feeling. Like I feel like, oh, I can go into somebody's house now. I can go drive through to drive-in if I wanted to. I could, crutch into a store and go shopping even if I wanted to. It's we forget to be grateful for what we should be grateful for. This is the first time in the history of the world that a vaccine rather, has been made up, created, and implemented in a year. It's literally miraculous in the history of medicine. So, and the fact that finally we're getting some direction, and we have really, we went from no, like a complete abject failure to get vaccine into the arms of our citizens. Now we're rocking. We're rocking heavy. And so I know it's tough. It was a tough year for me, but there's hope at the end of everything, and gratitude while everything is going on.
Yeah, one thing I feel compelled to add is one thing that I've learned from the pandemic and this whole experience is that you just don't know, and you never will, when something difficult or excellent is around the corner. And it is sort of independent of these larger movements. Cases in point that have been very salient for me, and other people may have had completely different experiences, but my father died, but he did not die from COVID during the whole pandemic period. So, and I have an elderly parent, she's doing fine. My dad got cancer, right? David got cancer. He recovered from cancer. It's all so complicated. And I think the one point to remember is the preciousness of everything, and to just live not in fear that anything could happen at any moment, but in inspiration that anything could happen at any moment. And, putting, that love in front of fear, however you can, and taking that to every moment, no matter what's going on in the world. So not easy to implement, but a useful thing that I'm taking away from all this.
There's an old phrase that may seem rough or crude, but it's absolutely true. And I've personally experienced it the past 10, 12 months. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. There's something to be learned from tough situations. If you're in a state of being to learn it, there's amazing things to learn. And it's can be insanely painful. So
yeah, welcome those challenges that arrive, and even seek those challenges. That's another thing that's, again, this is just my personal perspective. Other people might have something different, but the challenges can really, like you're saying, can be the catalyst for something greater in many ways. And by avoiding it, you avoid the growth that comes alongside of it.
It's a great thing that we all have, which is we love the comfort zone. All right, there's a lot of comments now. Read the comments, Mr. Janney.
All right, here we go. Let's talk about John Ross. John Ross said, I have had some in-home tuning situations where the wife agrees to the protocol, yet when arriving, I find the husband does not and remains in the room. So I had to be very specific about everyone in the home is on board with the protocol. Yeah, that is that's tough. Yeah. I've definitely walked into, I was actually to host one of these events one day. I was traveling and I booked like a shared office space And I just thought, well, it's a shared office space. They're going to have the protocols, and everything's going to be fine. And I walked in and the guy didn't have a mask, and I said, oh, you don't have a mask. He's like, I could do that if you want. And I'm like, this doesn't really feel like you're fully taking this whole thing seriously, and I had to just go find another place. And it's just sort of part of the whole situation.
Yeah, my partner Nick has gone into 2 situations where she's new clients from the website, and we always tell them beforehand, we're COVID safe, Nick's been tested, everything is cool on our end. Make sure that you stay 10 or 12 feet away from Nick, and make sure nobody else is around, and just do it as safely as possible. You don't have to write a check. You can pay through the invoice or whatever. And he's had to walk out of a couple of places where people were not only didn't do it, but were snippy and snarky about it.
Yeah, there's a bit of that coming on. Yeah, John Ross also followed up saying he has 2 daughters in the medical field, and the COVID situation is to be taken seriously from, his inside information on that. There's definitely our country has been divided. A lot of people are divided on their attitudes around this type of thing. I think one of the couple themes are, just to remember it's not just about us individuals, about our own safety, but how our behavior affects other people's safety. And, just to put the positives in from every side of it, boosting our immune systems and being healthy and eating healthy and exercising and keeping our systems fresh and alive are a good way, are a good thing in all situations. David Skolnick, just referring to David Klavin's pianos, not all of these types of projects are illuminating as they might be in interpreting what traditional instrument, but he agrees that what we're saying about David Klavin's. Let's see, here are we. Rint Azenga, I hope I pronounced that right. There are 2 other European piano makers who ... I don't know what the rest of that is. Let's see. I'll find it in a minute, but we'll go back.
Who make pianos?
Yeah, there are 2 other European piano makers who are also, this is a private message to me, very interesting. Chris Meen in Belgium and Stefan Paolello in France. I've heard of Paolello strings.
Of course, I've heard of Paolello strings. I didn't know he built pianos.
Both a straight strung and a grand piano, maybe interesting guests. Yes, that sounds good. I'll make a note of that. If you know either of those folks, feel free to connect me by email. By the way, folks, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this in front of everyone, so that's useful information. If you think we should have a guest, just reach out to me and recommend them. And if you know that person, definitely send a joint email and explain why you think this would be a good connection, and we'll try to get it set up. I don't know whether I mentioned this publicly before, but I will say it now because I think it's useful to share. And just to address it, I did find out that there are some folks who may have wished that we had a feminine representation in terms of our guests on Piano Tech.
That would be me.
Piano Technicians Masterclass. David has stated it, but also we've had participants, who are interested in that. And I'll share this now just to make it clear that I have reached out to several females to participate in these things, and whatever it turns out, they've been busy. It's not been the thing for them or not. So what I would say around that is, I think that some of them will come around, and if you know any of them and want to encourage them, to come along, reach out to them and say, hey, I think this will be really great. If you don't mind me pushing a little extra, I think you'll really enjoy it. I think it'll be great for everybody. And that goes to say for anybody, whether it's a woman that might want to participate or just another artist or technician that you think would be a good guest. Feel free to put in an extra good word for things. Let's see here. Now we'll go back
I
to...
have
Yeah.
just as an aside, I've brought up half a dozen other names that Eathan didn't just name that we've contacted and haven't had any interest in teaching, that are names that most of you know, I would imagine. So I'm deeply aware of the imbalance.
Yeah.
Deeply.
And just to say again, right now I'm setting aside any of the gender specific things I just mentioned, just regarding folks who, aren't participating or wanting to do it. I think I think most of you really understand this deeply, but a lot of respect goes to the folks that are joining and putting themselves out on a limb to try something new. I think it's not easy. I know it's not easy for me to try to go out here and try to introduce something new, but I know for them, they're on the spot. They're the expert, and they gotta feel like they gotta live up to it, and they feel like they gotta bring good information and deal with the possibility there's some glitches and that might affect their reputation and all of these things. So I give a lot of respect and appreciation to the folks who have come along and been willing to participate. So put that out there.
It's been astonishing and empowering for both of us, wouldn't you say, Eathan? That so many amazing human beings have been our guests.
Yes. And I've recognized one of you, I won't say who, one of you actually went on a campaign to try to recruit several people who you thought would be good guests, and you realize how hard it is. You started reaching out to people and, oh, they said no, they said no, they said no, they said no. But in that conversation that I had with a participant, it's an adoption curve, just like anything else. So there you got the early adopters, you got the majority, you got the late adopters, and they each have their advantages. Early adopters get a little bit more respect for putting themselves out there, but not until later. And the late adopters, get to maybe put on a more polished presentation and learn from the experience of the people who have come before them. So we need them all. Say that. Susan Klein put a comment in here. She hasn't been able to get a shot yet. And has immune issues. Well, that's too bad. I would love to see if there's a way to get you a shot sooner. Was in the hospital with Guillain-Barré syndrome. Guillaume. Also had some European COVID last October. Oh my gosh. Got sick in a weird way. Being extremely careful and safe. Very little work coming in. Anything extraordinary she's been sending to her assistant. Glad that her assistant is there. Hope to get the J&J vaccine fairly soon. Then after giving myself a month for immunity to develop, I won't have to be so limited. That's great. Aim is to be fit and well when concerns here start again, hopefully by late fall. Want to be there for the musical community, but at 75, feel like being semi-retired is quite reasonable. Yes, I would agree. Everyday tuning for non-musicians isn't all that exciting for you at this point, especially with their assistant to help and that kind of customer out. Want to do what you can well, tuning and prep for world-class people. We don't have frequent concerts in the piano series here, but the ones we get are fabulous with that level of use, heavy but infrequent. Can keep OSU's performance D in really good shape. Yeah, sounds awesome. Like making good progress there. It is good to have a team and an assistant and go that route. Yeah. I would say this too, if there's anybody out there that hasn't connected, if you have built a business and you haven't connected with someone that you're mentoring or, sort of passing your business along to or building that relationship, probably David or I is happy to discuss it with you. I know Steve Brady just, brought on a technician to start taking on some of his business. I've been doing this thing in New York where I'm helping other piano technicians get work. I know it can be intimidating, it can be confusing, but I know Tim Barnes from Gazelle is trying to do his part to help people with that transition. But yeah, feel free to reach out if you have questions or curiosities, because the heart of it all is that mentorship relationship, I think, which is really what we're trying to facilitate here, but can be done in person, and you can feel valuable passing on your expertise as well as helping someone, move a lot more quickly and confidently than they would have been able to do before.
Yeah, having a protege, having someone coming up in your business is a life changer. It really is a life changer. It's an infusion of energy, good energy, into a 30, 40-year career. It's really good. Or 20-year career. It's really, really good to pass it on. Feels great to pass it on.
I'll cut in and say right here, if you're on Facebook or YouTube watching us, we're going to sign off there. So there should be a link in the chat if you want to join the Zoom call. But I'll take us off those sites in just a minute here.
Come on back to the Zoom call, kids.
Okay. And then let's move on here. I got a direct message from Jim Kelly. He's like Carl, doing lots of pianos from customers moving here and bringing pianos from states like New Jersey, Ohio, New York, even LA. Just completed work on a 1914 Mason Hamlin that will be used in an art gallery at Brook Green Gardens. That may lead to lots of work. Concert tunings at the Carolina Opry have dried up. Also doing piano upgrades and troubleshooting piano disc and QRS mainly. Reading lots of journals and tech manuals, organizing tools and supplies. Got my second shot as well.
Who is this?
This is Jim Kelly.
Hey, Jim.
And I think he was the one who, for some crazy reason, is wearing a winter hat over there. Did you want to chime in, Jim? You want me to give
you're like a Tasmanian devil, man. You're going at 70 miles an hour. That's awesome.
Do you want to say something, Jim? Feel free to unmute yourself if you do.
Greetings. Yeah. My wife just made fun of me about the hat, but I don't listen to her half the time anyway. Yeah, it is actually 76. It's like summer out here. But what usually happens, it goes down about 20 or 30 degrees and it feels like winter again. So it's funny you mentioned Tasmanian devil. That's the name we gave my daughter's dog. He is a Tasmanian devil. He looks exactly like one. Yeah, he does. But, this radio hour is something I look forward to every week. It's just like become a part of my habit on Saturday. Make sure that, I'm around and I can dial in. And I really commend you all for putting this together. It's just good to see people.
It really is just good to see people. Really just good to know that there's this this community of people who really love this stuff all over the world. And it's bonding. It's ancient. It's cool.
Yeah, it really is. And we've been fortunate. Southeast region has had, Bill Davis has really put together some classes there that have been totally great. Just had Ben Gack do something on the Goldilocks zone.
Goldilocks zone.
But it's just been great. I can't thank people enough for doing this. And we're lucky we have a tool like Zoom. It's a great contact vehicle, and it's fun.
Yeah,
indeed. It is.
And I'll also just this something I get particularly excited about is bringing the cross continental people together. So I've been very pleased. It's not half and half or anything like that, but the handful of people that have been coming in from other continents and countries. Just this dissemination of information, I think, is very powerful.
Means a lot to it.
And the other point, too, I just want to make here, following up on Jim's comment, and I'm going to mute you, Jim, just so that we don't get any background audio. But just keep in mind, everyone, I mean, it may look like it's me and David that are making this thing happen, but each and every one of you is really making it happen, right? Because if you weren't here, if you weren't engaged, if you weren't participating, you're here just as much as we are for every other person that's here. So we appreciate that. And don't forget that. It's very powerful.
That's right.
Let's see here. So moving on, talk about Cy Schuster. He's with David for the first time in 45 years, hasn't worked regularly. On top of that, had to stop all his outside activities that kept him going, singing in choruses, etc. Yeah, very, very annoying. It's been a big blow, and it's been instructive to see how much risk people will take to keep the bills paid.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was going to say, my mother-in-law, she went to just like a knitting club meeting, in the park in a circle of chairs where they were all, 6 feet apart. And still, somebody that was at that knitting club thing, somebody in their family got COVID. So everybody had to quarantine. And, and that happened because she was taking a dance class and it's difficult. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of situations that could seem that are riskier than they seem. You got to be very careful out there.
Eathan, there's some exchanges going on in the chat room. Can you check?
Yeah, there's 26 messages beyond what I've read. So let me scroll down here. Let me start at the end here. Let's see here. Brenda and Susan are talking. David Skolnick, did Mason Havlin. Oh man, I can't keep up with everything. Anybody want to just shake their hand and chime in on something?
No.
Shot in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Terry Chamberlain said, I'm using this time to do repair and restoration projects. Yeah, for those people who have a shop, I envy them. It's an excellent opportunity to dive in deep. I unfortunately don't have a shop. Tuning sessions are on hold till clients are safe and recovered. Sai said we can all read the chat. I'm just curious if there's anything specific. Okay, Johan Krebs had a lot to say.
I was wondering if there was questions.
Let's read what Johan. Yeah, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Let me read what Johan Krebs said, because he said a bit. In Vancouver, BC, he won't get vaccinated before the summer or fall. They are slow in getting enough vaccines. Many piano teachers are teaching on Zoom. The sound of the piano does not always come through clearly. That's true, which limits the quality of teaching. In Zoom times, a challenge for us tutors is possibly make the sound of the piano clear to support the teaching quality. Started exploring how piano sound can be improved for musicians who are hard of hearing many years ago. Learned much about how to make the sound of the piano clearer to lower the distortion hearing aid wearers experience. This new knowledge is helping me prepare pianos for Zoom. I think this is where the future lies for us. In the future, we will not only be tuning, but maintaining the clarity and transparent piano sound as well. That's interesting. Yeah.
I just want to tell everybody some really good news on this show. I know that within 6 months, there will be an advanced Zoom alternative with broadcast quality audio and video for not much more money. So,
yeah, excellent.
So that puts our teaching world in a different whole scene, right?
Yeah, indeed.
That puts our ability to teach around the tone of a piano, which is arguably the most important thing. It makes our ability to teach around that and hear it and viscerally get into it, a lot more.
I'm looking through the chat here. Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, Jim Kelly, this is an interesting comment. I don't know what came before it. Right on, I had all the knuckles on my left hand replaced and a neck fusion of C3 to C7 every day as a gift. If you can get up in the morning and be vertical, count your blessings. Shut off the news. We live in a great country. Faith, hope, and love have never been more important. Yeah, definitely think it's powerful to shut off the news in order to,
Sometimes you just got to get completely off the grid, be with yourself. That's crucial, life saving and affirming. Do you want to talk the last little bit we got left about what being a master piano technician is? It's
Yeah,
such
sure.
a vast question. I
Yeah,
mean,
sure.
I
Let
immediately
me
go to
see. Let me see if I can bring up the actual comment that we had here too, because that might be interesting. Where is this? Come on here. Master technicians, where do they exist? What are the challenges? Institutional, personal tuners for performers. From attending 2019 PG convention in Tucson, I'm seeing a split between those seasoned technicians that have their niche, would never touch a spinet, and those that service all instruments. So that's kind of the exact comment that
interesting.
sparked this. Yeah. I
All
don't know
right.
if it's the same person, but I did get an email recently from someone asking about the same question, like what makes a master piano technician? The first thing that comes to my mind are two things. One is the Clavier Baumeister designation coming from the German training tradition. It sounds to me like the closest thing to a reputable certification in master being a master piano technician. And the second thing that come to mind is kind of like I have no idea what it is, and I think maybe it may be mistaken for master piano. So there's an organization which I should know more about called Master Piano Technicians, which you could be a part of. And I suppose you can call yourself a master piano technician at that point because you're in that organization. But I'm not aware of any of the certification processes or any tests or exams that they have. And then beyond that, what I've answered in response to that question is, in the case of the technicians for that I try to find for teaching purposes, I think that those levels of recommendations by others, that they're good, define people to me as, I don't know if sometimes I'll say they're master piano technicians, masters of their craft, things like that. I think that I'm often skeptical of someone who calls themselves a master piano technician. But when I've heard from, at least 4 or 5 people who I really who I really respect, hey, that guy's a master at what he does, I think there's no official way to designate them as a master piano technician, but those people make sense, to give them that sort of level of respect. What are your thoughts, David?
I love watching human beings who have achieved some kind of mastery in some kind of difficult craft. That's why I love to watch world-class basketball players, chefs, carpenters, doctors, whatever, piano technicians. It's not like a master doctor knows everything about medicine or even about one field of medicine. A human being has focused on some small area of a big domain and done it with enough attention and enough love so that their being, their body, their brain, their whole unit starts to achieve mastery, starts to do it in this easy, fluid, almost mindless way, Like I have said for years, I'm not saying I'm a master at all, but I've been able to come up to a piano and within a very short time, pretty accurately tell what's wrong with it, what's going on with it, what it needs. And it's just something that I've gotten this quite a skill at. There's other, skills within this huge domain of piano technology that I've gotten pretty good at. So being a master piano technician, I don't know what that means. I mean, it's not about the number of skills or the volume of skills. I think it's the way you do the skills that you love to do. How about that?
Yeah, I can agree with a lot of that. I think also, David, you've brought up this kind of I forget the specific number, 1,000-pound gorilla and the always an apprentice attitude. So it's really interesting that this is definitely a pattern that I've seen among people who
800-pound gorilla.
800 pounds, right? I don't know what choose your number, but it's very interesting. The people who do have that, a lot of respect and a lot of expertise, they're somehow able to carry that apprentice level of openness and curiosity to the very basic levels of things. And humility is an interesting word. I've heard criticisms around the humility because in some sense it has this definition of having a low opinion of oneself, which some people like to avoid because you want to have confidence and you want to have a high self-respect. But it's something akin to that. Actually, I wish I could remember the word. One of the technicians that I work with, there's a Hebrew word actually, which sort of means humility, but it's sort of a humility that's coming from a very strong frame. I'll look at it. Anavin or something like that. Maybe that means grape. Anyways, but there's a word that I've heard that was hard to translate. But I think that's very interesting. I've seen that pattern. Very open, very very supportive, and there's sort of in between level where people are pretty darn good, but they're kind of a jerk, and they think they know it all, and they are pretty good. You can't deny it, but
yeah,
it's almost like you get past that. It seems like there's a place to get past that point and get back to a level of curiosity and
it's a
freshness.
Yeah, it's a state of being. I talk about it basically after every class I've ever taught. That thing of AAA and the 800-pound gorilla. AAA means always an apprentice. It means you're humble. It means the more you know you don't know. Really and truly and literally. The more I know, the more I'm humbled by the amount of stuff about pianos I have no idea about. And the 800-pound gorilla. I'm confident about my abilities, super confident about my abilities in the realms that I've achieved some expertise in. Super confident. So that combination of being completely humble and super and confident at the same time is just the ideal, both relationship context or attitude and learning context or attitude to be in. So there you go.
I was trying to look up this Hebrew word. I think I'm getting closer. I think it's like anava or ahava or something like this.
Really?
Yeah. Anyways,
Wow.
ahava, yeah, anava. I think that's maybe what it is. I'll figure it out. Anyways, we are very close to wrapping up here,
Yes.
and I think maybe there's a minute to just go ahead and do this, just to remind people what's going on here. I'll share my screen. Just to share, this is our convention schedule. These are our instructors. It's pretty impressive to look at here. Paul McNulty, Nick Gravagna, Fred Sturm, Alex Kirsten, Rick Baldison, Wayne Ferguson, David Clavins, Eric Johnson, David Andersen. And, some of these subject matter and the details are being honed and modified along the way. So if you do have questions, if you're like, I'd really like to see them teach, but I want to be clear on what exactly they're talking about, just reach out to me and I'll try to give you some more information, because I realize it's not all there. And I just literally, there's so much to do. I don't have the time to always communicate the full details.
You can reach out if you are curious about the class I'm teaching. You can reach out, and I'm sure the same thing is with anybody. All of these people, and I know them all, would love to, hear from you. I'm sure about their class.
Yeah.
So
Wayne Ferguson, I actually talked to him just this morning, and his title for his class is going to be updated to the full shebang, from shop to fieldwork to triage and customer service. And he's going to do a 3-part lecture where he's going to talk a little bit about three main topics: a little bit about workshop, a little bit about organization, a little bit about business tactics. So I'll report that. Breaking news.
Beautiful.
Okay. Well, we put links in the chat so you can sign up for the convention, give us feedback, check out our sponsors for the convention that we have, Schiedermeyer Celesta and Piano Buyer, and more to come. Hopefully, I've got to reach out to more folks to see if they want to sponsor. But yeah, thank you all for being here. I think it was really great. I felt the kind of warmth and intimacy today to be able to connect with everyone. So again,
exactly right. That's exactly what I felt.
Yeah,
really felt great energy today.
Yeah, and just to reiterate again, you're making this possible. You are making this possible, and so we really appreciate every person that's here to do this, and appreciation to you to be received, and give appreciation to each other for making this possible. All right.
Thank you, Eathan. Thanks, buddy.
Cool. Should we sign off?
Yes, we should. Okay. Thank you, brother.
Excellent. We'll see you all around next week.
Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. Remember that you can catch us live online every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
That's right. Go to pianotechradio.com to register so you can interact live and ask questions of our guests.
See you next week.